So welcome to round 3 of the World Cup Debate Championship 2013. In affirmative side we have Tunisia 2.
Yeah.
Who is speaking first? Leo Son speaking first. Second, Amin Khalaf. And third, Ahmed Tukri. And in the negative side we have counter comments. Who is speaking first? Speaking second. And third will be Danny Lee.
Yes.
Excellent. Without any further ado, we'd like to invite the first speaker for the affirmative Leo. Go put him with for us. Okay, here. Yes, please.
Wait a second, please. Yeah, timer. So is this a speaker? Yeah, okay. Oops. So today, the affirmative side strongly believes that targeted online advertising based on user profiles and demographics should be banned. And in this debate, we will prove two things. First, we will prove that it is morally wrong to use personal information for advertising without the permission of the users. And the second is that we will prove that categorizing people by demographics and personal information is not productive, yet it is counterproductive for advertising. And to clarify some wordings of the motion to avoid some uncertainty that could possibly occur throughout the debate. Firstly, targeted online advertising means advertisements that appear on the internet which targets specific groups of people, and user profiles and demographics mean personal information that is collected that a certain internet site collects from its registered users. So I would like to first start off my argument, which is that it is not right thing to do. Not right thing to do, and it's unjust to collect personal information for profitable purpose. Let's think about the Facebook, which is the most dominant social networking site in the status quo. More than a billion of people around the world use Facebook these days, and Facebook, the company itself, the site itself has access to those personal information of its users, and they sell those informations to certain companies who would like to use them for advertising purpose. And we might not be realizing how serious this situation is. So the fact that the company is using our personal profiles means that they have access to our personal information, and this means that they can watch what we are doing every time, wherever we are. And just imagine that I assume most of you use Facebook, and you post something personal on the Facebook, such as you kissing your girlfriend, or you say something about that you want to talk about your friends, but no one else, you, especially you don't know. You don't want people to know your privacy because you want to keep it private. But the thing is that your privacy is not being kept well, but it is being intervened by these advertising companies who try to use your personal information. And the second argument we came out is that it is actually counterproductive to advertise based on demographics, while they might think that it is an efficient way. A lot may think that targeted online advertising is more beneficial on the economic level. Well, that is not true. Why? It's just because when you're targeting a specific group of people, you'll be missing out money coming from people that you have never thought about. Well, and you're just stereotyping people that you just assume that they might buy your products just based on those demographics. You don't know those people well, but you judge those people by prejudice. And specific group of people, you'll be missing out money coming from. You might think that you're earning money from profiling, but you're actually missing out a lot of money that you haven't thought about from the people you haven't thought about. And by this targeted online advertising, they are actually more likely to miss out money, and they categorize people by their gender, age, location, and other personal information they can't reflect without that person. And by making groups of people, you're actually presuming that it is okay to ignore the people's difference and their true nature. And considering the growing impact of globalization in the status quo, people are not as we presume that we. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Will the negative side of that time?
Yeah.
Can we jump right back?
Huh?
Can we jump right back?
Yeah.
All right, ready? Yes? Okay. So you argue that we should ban online targeted advertising, correct?
Yes.
Would you ban offline targeted advertising?
What do you mean by offline?
For example, if there's an advertisement in a woman's magazine that is targeted
Well,
towards a female
if it is
audience?
targeting based on demographics and personal information about that demographics of people, we cannot say we banned that, but we are not quite favoring those.
Would you, no, the question is, would you ban offline advertising in magazines, for example?
Well, why would you ban offline targeting, offline advertisement?
Right, so
Where's
your problem with online advertising is that it violates privacy, correct?
Yes.
So then why don't you just ban the selling of data rather than banning the targeted advertising? Isn't the problem in selling the data?
What we're trying to say is that because the companies use those data to categorize people for their advertisement purpose, it means that they have access.
Right, but doesn't the problem lie in the selling of data?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So at the very top of the affirmative side, you say that it is morally wrong to use personal information without permission, correct?
Yes, because it is intervening the privacy.
Do you
of
have a
individuals.
Facebook?
Yes.
When you signed up for a Facebook, did you click I accept the terms and conditions?
Yes.
Okay, so where in the resolution or
But people normally don't read those information because it's too long.
So whose fault is it?
Well,
so doesn't then in that line of logic, doesn't the problem lie in the disclaimer?
Well, then are you justifying just because people all
No,
just put check button in the Facebook?
In that line of logic, are you saying the problem lies in the disclaimer? You're saying
Yes.
the font is too small.
Yes.
So that's the problem now.
What is the problem?
The problem is the disclaimer now.
What do you mean by disclaimer, please?
The small font in the.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the problem. Also, where in the motion does it say that we're doing this without permission?
Well, because people do not know that their information is, the companies have access to.
People don't know that.
Well,
Do you know
I have to clarify one thing. By checking those sites when they sign into Facebook, they know that Facebook company has access to their information, but they don't know that Facebook sells to other companies those information for advertisement
the
uses.
second argument is that targeting might mean missing out on other people, correct?
Yes, it is counterproductive.
What if you are a company that is only targeting a specific group of people? Do you care about
But how
missing
do you
out
know
on
the
other
nature
people?
of people just by their
Do you
demographics?
care about missing out on other people you're not targeting?
Well, yes, I do, because they have a lot of potential to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would you comment on that?
We'll be taking a minute. All right, opponents ready, judges ready? Yeah, okay. All right, so to start this round today, I have two observations. Firstly, in order to show that targeted online advertising should be regulated or banned, our opponents on the affirmative have the burden to prove a tangible harm from the practice alone. Second of all, for our opponents' arguments to stand in the round, they must prove that banning targeted online advertising is the best way to solve the problem. Our opponents in the crossfire basically conceded to the fact that the problem lies in the selling of data, not in the targeted advertising. They said that if magazines target people, then they would ban it as well. They don't agree with the idea that anyone should target anyone. Or actually, no. Basically, the point we brought up was that magazines do the same thing, where basically they target people because they buy the magazine. But if we're not going to ban the magazines for targeting with that type of advertising, the only reason we're banning online advertising is because they're selling the personal information of the users. And that is the problem here, not the fact that people are targeting their advertising to those people. So the first argument I bring up, which clashes directly with their first argument, is the contract that you make. When you sign up for an online service, you consent in the terms and conditions to give your information to that website to sell for their purposes. That is in the terms and agreements, and you concede to that. If you make a contract with an employer, for example, they follow that contract to a T, you can't say that you as an employee are being violated. When you give money to a bank, you allow them in a contract to invest your money, and you accept the risk. The banking industry relies on the ability to do this, and that's how they make a profit. It's mutually beneficial. You have a place to keep your money, and the banking industry stays alive through that purpose. It's the same with online targeted advertising. You give your information to them. The targeting companies have the benefit of giving products to you. You get the ease of using those products that are tailored to you, and in the end, you've signed an agreement. The point of privacy is controlling your information. You control your information, and you give it to the website. The information is still in your control, so you still have privacy because you've decided to do that with your information. Our second argument is going to deal with the utility of targeted online advertising. Targeted online advertising is user-friendly. It helps the consumer. When you're looking at a site about South Africa, for instance, targeted advertising gives you a flight information options, for example, for South Africa. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with easing your ability to purchase things, easing your ability to make plans? Utility for companies also comes into account. Companies depend on this type of advertising to hit the right market and make the most profit. For instance, an organization like Youth Forum could find out on Facebook all the people that are debaters and then advertise the program to the debaters as they've given that information to Facebook. We want Youth Forum to profit, and we want them to spend less on the ads that they need to make, because now they know they have a specific number of people that are going to be debaters that are more likely to buy this product. So that's a reason that we should be giving the opportunity for them to do this, spend less on ads, and get more participants. Targeted online advertising is mutually beneficial. It is utilitarian for the customer and for the company giving the information. Our third argument today is going to be about user demographics. There's going to be more of a focus on minorities with targeted online advertising. For instance, in the US, companies know that the majority of citizens are Caucasian. So if they want to run a national online campaign and get the most buyers, they're going to target the white Americans. If they know that they have the ability to hit people of certain demographics, then they can make ads that target all those demographics. This has two impacts. Firstly, minorities are taken into account by major companies. For instance, makeup companies can advertise makeup that fits the skin tone of certain groups. This not only helps the company better sell their product, but again, gives greater ease to minorities in online surfing, thus greater utility. It's basically helping them out in a mutually beneficial fashion, taking minorities into account, because now that they're able to target minorities, they are going to, secondly, produce products for minorities in an increased amount. So that's our second impact. Now that companies know that they can target minorities through advertising, they will have a greater profit incentive to create products for those groups instead of just majority groups. Again, this increases the amount minorities are taken into account in society because they have a profit incentive from targeted online advertising to include minorities in their products, because they have more of a likeliness of buying that product now that they know that they're targeting that group. So now I'm going to go on to our opponent's second argument about the counterproductivity, about how targeting a specific group of people, you're missing out on money from other people. I have three responses to this. First of all, there are definitely times when the group you are targeting is going to be, by majority, a correct group, such as the makeup example I just gave, so for different skin tones. So most likely this is going to work most of the time, because there are times when you're targeting a group and you know that these certain characteristics are going to fit a certain product, and you can target them in that way. But second of all, it is up to the company when they use this tactic and when they don't. If they use it completely wrong, that is their problem. That doesn't mean that we should ban the practice of targeted online advertising. It is up to the company to use it in the right way and target the correct groups, but the fact that this thing is made available to them only increases the likeliness that they'll use it correctly. So there's no reason why you should ban this mode of increasing the amount that minorities are included in society and the amount of profit that companies make. Thirdly, targeted advertising eases online purchasing for the maximum amount of people that they can, so more so than non-targeted advertising. However, no form of advertising can help every single person, but it still gives them the opportunity, the most amount of people, the opportunity to be helped in the most easy way. And it's a simple concept. For instance, when you have focus groups, you find out who in that focus group is going to want that product the most. Basically, you can use that information in your targeted online advertising to sell that product to those people. You're not going to just sell it to everyone in the focus group. If half of the people said they really didn't like it, you find out the information about the people in the focus group, and that is what helps you in online advertising. For all these reasons, we negate. Thank you.
Thank you. Will the further to require any time? We'll have 1 minute.
Shall we start? Okay. So your first argument was basically about contracts and how we must agree to those contracts. Okay. So do you believe that sites with contracts are the only way to do targeted advertisement?
No, not at all. As we gave with the magazine example, you don't even need to be online to target advertise. If you go on a certain site that you've chosen to go on, they might target you
We're talking about
based on
online advertisement,
right. So
not
if you go,
magazines.
no, I know, but it's the same concept.
Do you know that targeted advertisement can be based upon the IP address? In which case, there won't be contracts.
Right, so they know where you are. I mean, you make a contract when you buy a computer, you have an IP address that, when you connect to a router, it's like, this still our contracts are making, you know that your information is going to be made available.
I know you get how IP address works, but that does not include contracts.
What you're basically saying is because it doesn't have like a textual agreement that you click, like I accept terms and conditions, that there's no contract, but you still make a contract and you are informed when you buy these products. So I don't think that you can say that the contract doesn't exist.
The contract exists, you say.
Also, again, it's in the fine print.
With whom?
With the company that you buy the server from, the company that you buy
the
computer from.
Now we buy servers? Okay.
The router.
Okay. Your second argument is that targeted ads are beneficial because they're practical. Yeah, you said so. So basically, if a male, a 40-year-old male, is targeted by advertisement, yet he is targeted by some advertisement, yet he is, like, let's say, gay, which does not fit the normal group of people that was targeted. Wouldn't that be counterproductive?
I think the point of targeted advertising is actually to help him because he's gay, because he has this information that he's made public on his profile, or so
We're
whatever.
Saying that the targeted ad is targeting 40-year-old
him with
males.
things that he would like.
40-year-old males.
Right.
Yeah. we're not-
Oh, okay, so 40-year-old. So again, targeted advertising doesn't work 100% of the time. If I don't know why gay people wouldn't want the same products that 40-year-old males would want if they weren't gay, but anyway, at the same
okay, I get your
time,
point. You said that these ads will work most of the time.
yeah, it will work most of the time. Nothing is 100% certain. It'll work probably 98% of the time.
That means that sometimes it wouldn't work.
Yeah,
It would
2%
be
of the time. But the point is,
counterproductive.
it's more than 70% of the time that would happen with non-targeted. I mean, these are fake numbers, but the point is that it would happen more than you would with non-targeted advertising.
If hypothetically I was to register to make a Facebook account as a 30-year-old woman, would I have to be stuck with pregnancy pill ads for the rest of my life?
Well, if you were actually a 30-year-old woman, you might want
I'm
that
not,
kind of
I'm
advertising.
not.
Right, but I don't know why you'd make a fake account then.
Thank you. Do you need more time?
Yeah, 2 minutes. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Well, let me start by pointing out some of the inconsistencies that that the opponent's team had in their speech. Well, you kept talking about how when we sign up on Facebook, we are signing up to get invaded in our privacies. Well, I would like to challenge the opponents to give me the right words that says in the conditions of Facebook that you have the right to invade my personal privacy and my personal data. And the other point is that you talked about offline advertising and it's targeting, for example, you talked about a magazine targeting women. Well, let me just make sure that a lot of men buy those magazines. So actually, you're saying that if it's a woman's magazine, I do not, as a man or as I do not have the right to buy that. Or if I'm living in France, I do not have the right to buy a magazine that is being published in the UK or in the USA. And a lot of people have to do that because many magazines are not published everywhere in the world. So actually, you are categorizing people by their location. And the other point is that if you need a specific, if you're talking about a bank and it's mutually beneficial for both, well, the bank has an insurance policy that can, it is helpful for its users, but we're talking about online targeting advertising, and I don't see any insurance policy that that protects me and tells me that my privacy is not being invaded and my data is being classified and protected. So I don't think that the bank's example really stands, and actually it falls apart because it doesn't have really a relation into the into the motion and your point that you were making. So you talked about buying things from the youth forum, and what are we actually buying from the youth forum? We're just debating. We're trying to solve problems. So you talked about Caucasians in the USA. Well, are you saying that we should ignore African American and other nationalities that live in the USA just so you can make more profit by buying makeup? So you're saying that African American doesn't have the money to buy products in the USA? The other point is that you talked about specific products and how can we get makeup tones. Well, if I need to get a makeup, so I just Google the website that I need to get into, and then I will check the makeup that I need. I don't need advertising to tell me which makeup that I should need, because I'm not going to post online that I am, for example, needing a specific makeup. So let me just start with our arguments. So as my friend and teammate said, our arguments is that target online advertising is useless, moralless, and counterproductive. Well, we know that advertising companies are a profit organization, and we are for making them get more profit. But if you are targeting a specific group and you are missing, you are actually using targeted online advertising in a wrong way, and we should ban it because it's useless, because you are likely to miss out money then gain money, and that's because they categorize people by their gender, age, location, other personal information that cannot reflect what the person really wants or be interested in. And by making groups of people, you're actually saying that it's okay to ignore the people's difference, and that difference actually what makes our world more productive and more interesting. The second argument is that no one has the right to access personal data without the consent of that person, and everyone has the right to anonymity on the internet. And our third argument is that globalization is making the world a unit, and internet played a huge role in making that globalization work. And actually, when you're using targeted advertising, you're just using the internet in an unjust way, and it's not really general, and you are targeting people and categorizing people and making prejudice, and you are actually filtering people through their personal data that you don't even have the right to do it. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
All right, so to start, you talk about how we have to show the agreement with Facebook that says they're allowed to sell our information. How do you propose that we have this information if we couldn't use the internet?
I suppose if you read the conditions, you can at least tell me what they say exactly about invading my privacy and have the right to go into my personal data.
Say that the information that you put on Facebook.
I just want a credible example. That's it. I just
Facebook.
want a credible example, because you just.
That's my credible example.
I just can give examples without a credible source, and
Facebook is the source. But
Facebook, you didn't give me anything that says that it really does exist on the Facebook conditions.
It does exist on the Facebook.
But you didn't give me.
Okay, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So how, again, you didn't respond to our observation that
Which
we gave in
is?
the first round, the tangible harms observation. So how do you show tangible
So
harms
you
of online advertising?
Okay, so you talked about gaining profit and getting money, and we are okay with that. I mean, a lot of companies, the companies are made to gain money and get profit, but actually when you are targeting people through using targeted online advertising, you are actually not gaining as much money as you can gain, because you are filtering people, and you do not know if there is a huge number of people like in North Africa that are interested in getting things from Europe or the
So you're saying the tangible
USA.
harm here is actually to the companies, that they're not going to make enough money. That is your tangible harm.
No, I have another intangible harm, which is more moral, which is invading privacy and without the consent of the user of the
Okay,
internet.
can you give any like tangible evidence of how that's a problem for the user? If they're signing this agreement,
I mean, I don't know if you want to everyone in the world to know your personal data. If you're okay with that, I'm not. So we're different.
so
I mean,
you're
if you are okay with
evidence.
that, I am not. So that the difference between
Okay,
people,
then you
cannot
shouldn't-
really
probably.
justify
okay.
the difference because it exists.
So another thing. So you basically said that we're only targeting the majority. How would you say that targeted advertising is not targeting the majority when the point of targeted advertising is to find these specific groups that are actually minorities?
Well,
that they
actually,
can
you are
put
contradicting
products to?
yourself because you said that the majority of Americans are Caucasians, and
Yes.
you are selling products to Caucasians more than other nationalities in the USA. So you're actually saying that targeted online advertising should be specific, but your example says it's more general, and you're targeting just Caucasians.
Yeah, I think you're misunderstanding. We were giving an example of when you
No,
don't
I'm
use
just
targeted
saying that
advertising.
your example doesn't stand and has
so you
no
give this
ground.
example of how you can Google whatever makeup you want. If you,
Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is that when targeted advertising doesn't work for you, you still have access to the entire web. The web isn't banned from you. You can still find what you
but
want.
we're not talking about getting used to the getting the web access. And just let me specify something. You said that I can Google the makeup name, and for example, if the ads just gets into my screen on Facebook, I may not know the names of the products that are used in that makeup, and I could get harmful and diseases that I don't even know that I can get. So that could be harmful for people too.
Cool.
Thank you.
Voting negative required on the input.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Because we have those two things. The woman accept. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Is everyone ready? So there are two levels of this debate. The first level is where are the problems actually coming from? Does the AF prove the resolution true? And this is going to come out of the concessions that the first speaker of our opposition made in cross-examination. So the first concession that they made is that the problem lies in the selling of data. We asked them whether or not they support targeted advertising in magazines. For instance, in a women's magazine, is it okay to advertise for women's products? But the problem there is that they say that the problem there lies within the they say that is okay, but which indicates that the problem there is with the selling of the data. The problem there isn't the targeted advertising. This indicates that they're not actually, the problem is not the resolution, the problem is the idea of selling data. So if you look at the observations at the top of the negative case, that is going to show you that we have to look at the problem and the best way to solve this problem. If their problem is the problem with selling data, then banning internet advertising is not going to be the best solution for this. But if we can show you why the status quo is going to be more beneficial than banning these products, than banning online targeted advertising, then that is a reason you're going to negate today's round. So let's go to the second level of the other concession that our opponents made in cross-examination is that the problem lies in the small font of the disclaimers. But just because someone has a problem with a disclaimer does not mean that is a reason to ban the product. For example, if you are taking a bus from New York City to China to Washington, D.C., and it says, we are not responsible for if your baggage is lost. If their baggage is lost and they try to blame the company, but they can't blame the company because of that disclaimer, like if someone feels that there should be a better disclaimer, that's not a reason to ban the entire company. That's not a reason to ban the product. That is just a reason that we should have better disclaimers, and we should make sure that people are aware of what they're purchasing. That's not a reason why we're going to be banning the product, or in this case, banning online targeted advertising. So that's the first reason. Those are the two reasons why they're not actually going to be proving the resolution true to its fullest capacity, and reasons why you're going to be negating. But now let's go to the second level of the debate. The second level of the debate is whether or not this targeted advertising is actually going to be beneficial. And here we have three arguments as to why it's going to be beneficial. First, we're going to look at the minorities. So in our third argument on the negative side of the flow, we have the fact that we are looking at user demographics. So if you look at, for example, in the United States, a majority of the United States is going to be Caucasian, but with the best way for products to advertise would be to send out if there were no targeted advertising, would be to send out mass ads just to target Caucasians. However, with targeted advertising, products are able to make more money because they're able to send out different ads to different types of people. This is going to this is going to make sure that more people are taken into consideration. Further, my partner brought up focus groups. Focus groups allow products to know what their target audience is. So if they know what their target audience is, it makes sense for these products to only send out ads to those people. For example, we brought up Youth Forum. It doesn't make sense for Youth Forum to pay for ads going out to everyone on Facebook to try to get people to come to Youth Forum. It makes sense for a Youth Forum to purchase information from Facebook and send out ads to people who are interested in debate or who are interested in meeting people from around the world. Those are clear reasons why this is going to be beneficial to This is why it's going to be beneficial to both people who are placing ads and the consumers on Facebook. But we're not just looking at Facebook. If we also look at if we also look at just Google, if you Google something about South Africa, what will come up is flights for South Africa. This is going to be our second impact, which is going to be utility. It makes things easier for people to purchase like flights, or to purchase more information about related things that they're interested in. So here are clear reasons why we're going to be winning, because targeted advertising is actually beneficial. But even if you're not going to be looking there, I would say that our burden is just to prove that the harms that they say stand are not actually standing, which is going to be privacy, which I will get to, and then whether or not the harm is big enough to negate. So their biggest harm is privacy, but we would say that privacy is not going to be. They don't say, if you look at the top of the negative case, we give you the example that the observation that they have to prove a tangible harm. Just because privacy may be violated doesn't mean that that is going to be a reason why targeted advertising is going to be the worst problem in the world, and banning targeted advertising is going to be worse. So insofar as we have a net benefit on the con side of the flow, because we're increasing profit margins for both consumers and for producers, and we're increasing desire for consumers, those are clear reasons why we're going to be voting off of the net benefit on the con. Also, we have clear, if you look at minority products, there's going to be a clear increase in minority, and there's going to be in products targeted towards minorities, and there's going to be a decrease in stereotypes overall. So for these reasons, we urge a con ballot.
Okay, can you specify what you mean by analogy between company and data?
Oh, sure. So do you mean, like, basically we're saying that what you're saying is in cross-examination, when you were being cross-examination by my partner, you said that the problem isn't that, like, just targeted advertising, it's targeted advertising in online when we sell the data, right? Like, if in a magazine, if there's a magazine targeted to women and they put women advertisements in, like, advertisements for women's products in there, that's going to be targeted advertising.
Okay.
But the problem isn't
Okay.
with that,
It's fine.
okay.
So when you say that you target different people, aren't you contradicting yourself because you're just targeting the minority?
No, I mean, there are, like, basically, when you sign up for Facebook, you're saying that, like, you're giving them your, privacy is in your control, but you're giving them the information. But you're not just targeting the minorities. Like, if you want something to be a product for the majority, you would target it from the majority.
So do you agree that selling the social networking sites selling personal data to other companies is a serious problem?
No, I mean, like we said,
privacy is yes or no? No?
No, privacy is in your control. You give up your right to privacy when you sign up for these.
But is there? So you agree that? Do you agree that in those conditions they say that they have right to sell those information to other countries, other companies? I mean.
Yeah, I mean, we can't read you. Like,
do you have exact wordings?
We're not allowed to get the. We're not allowed to get these. Like, we can't. We're not allowed to access the internet. If I could, then I would show you all of these. Like, no one.
So do you have
the fact that people skip over the term?
Do you have the wordings?
The fact that people skip over the terms and conditions agreement does not mean that.
I mean,
those terms
in those conditions, does it say that the site has a right to sell those information to other companies?
Yes.
Can you give me the exact wordings, please?
I can't. We don't have internet. Like,
well, we believe that is not credible enough.
Okay, but even so, I would say that is insofar as you still have control over what you post on there. So even so, you are signing up for these products. Even in the case of, like, an IP address, it's an implicit agreement.
Let's
a hypothetical contract.
Let's talk about different thing.
Okay.
So just forget about this social networking sites.
Sure.
Just assume that there's no. This is the way that the companies cannot get information from. Then what is the other ways that companies get information, personal information, rather than just buying from the social networking sites?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? Like, how else do they get information?
Yeah, how else?
I mean, demographics, like census.
Yeah. How else do they?
Like census reports. I mean, there are other ways, like focus group. Like, there are different ways to get information about groups. I mean, I actually don't think there are. Sorry. I didn't understand the question.
Affirmative would require. You're left with 450.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So, the negative team here conceded that we must ban selling data, which means we must ban also targeted advertisement, which basically makes their case fall to the ground. We wanted to make it very clear that we're not solely against selling data, we're against privacy transgressions as a whole. Team Negative here chose the levels they wanted to deal with, but they were actually talking about marginalizing the majority and targeting minorities, which we find counterproductive and very, very racist. Team Negative also would have you believe that economic development is more important than personal privacy, but we say it's actually immoral to track someone's IP address, get his or her location, age, sex, just to make financial profit. I mean, we don't want anyone to have access to private data. And Team Negative also built a whole argument on the fact that we have to sign an online contract, which is a very limited part of targeted advertisement. I mean, it's true that social platforms such as Facebook or Twitter need contracts to have accounts, but then again, targeted advertisement is not only using those platforms to target their advertisement. They can also use the IP addresses, which do not imply having to sign a contract. In the cross-examination, Team Negative conceded that in some cases targeted advertisement is counterproductive, which means targeted advertisement in this case is not only about privacy transgression, but also does not make profit, which makes it 100% useless. Now I'm going to sum up what my teammates have already said. Our first argument was about privacy. We think that it's immoral to let some companies have access to our private data just to make financial gain. The second argument was that targeted advertisement might be, in some cases, less profitable or counterproductive. As in, when targeting certain groups, some companies may miss out on lots of other groups that might actually be interested in their products. And we think that labeling people is actually not actually up to date. We mean, we're living in the 21st century. We no longer have those labels. I mean, a male could be interested in a female's products. A 40-year-old might be interested in a 15-year-old products. Last but not least, we went through the globalization argument. I mean, the whole world is becoming a small village. Distances are being shorter. Movement is being faster. And then again, targeted advertisement is against intercultural exchange, meaning that by targeting some groups in certain geographic locations, they're missing out on completely a lot of other people. So we have challenged Team Negative to give us proof that social platforms were actually selling our data. We're actually having in their contracts, making us sign contracts that basically let them transgress our privacy and sell our data, but they weren't able to respond. So hopefully they will. We have provided 3 clear arguments and that is why we think our case stands.
Negative, you've got 4.5 minutes.
How many?
4.5. Okay, we'll just run there.
Sorry. Right? Yes, cool. The status quo usage of targeted advertising not only respects privacy, but is also inclusive, not exclusive. So, again, there are two layers of the debate. The first layer is where the actual harms of the affirmative case are coming from. Do they actually sufficiently prove the resolution true? And the second layer of the debate is the net benefits debate. We argue that the status quo is good as it is, and in fact, there are net benefits to using target advertising, and getting rid of targeted advertising would be counterproductive. However, let's start at the first layer of the debate. The first layer of the debate is overlooked by the affirmative team. The problem is the two concessions that I got out of CrossX. The first concession I got was that the problems lie in the selling of data. There is a distinction between the selling of data and the targeted advertising used by advertising companies. This is very important because it means the problem isn't the advertising industry, and the harms aren't directly related to the policy, which means they're not proving the resolution. But second, they concede that the problem lies in the small font. He agrees that he accepted to the terms and conditions when he signed on to Facebook. Yes, we can't provide you with the specific text, but these are implicit agreements. These are hypothetical contracts in that when I go onto the internet, I recognize there's a risk that that my information is going to be used. But I agree to these risks because I need to use these services on the internet. This is a hypothetical contract. It's an implicit agreement. I recognize the risks. So, the first layer of debate is won by the negative side, which means that they're not proving the resolution true and the status quo is okay. But let's go to the second layer of debate. First, the app arguments. The first one is privacy. They bring up the example of the IP address and how that's not a contract. The problem is, again, it's an implicit agreement. When we buy a computer and we start using the internet, we recognize the risks and we accept those risks because we want to use the services of the internet. The contracts argument coming out of the con case is very important because it means that there is no violation of privacy. By definition, privacy is our ability to control our personal information. We are controlling our information when we agree to use it on the internet. Then the second half arguments are the net benefit arguments. First, they talk about there's not going to be any profit because they're going to be excluding the majority. But the problem is they're misunderstanding our position. We don't exclude the majority. We're saying don't just look at the majority, look at the majority and minority groups. We are including minority groups. We are the only inclusive position in this debate. Then they talk about stereotyping and categorizing people. The problem is we get rid of stereotyping by focusing on minorities. By focusing on minorities and doing research into what they want, we're able to learn about who they truly are and get rid of stereotyping. Then let's go to our net benefits. The first net benefit is profit. By using demographics, there's going to be increased profit because more people are going to be taken into consideration. Also, the argument about inclusion. We're able to maximize diversity because we can focus on not only majority groups, but we can also focus on minority groups. Then, the third argument we're talking about is utility. This is a mutual targeted advertising. It's a mutual benefit for the consumer as well as the advertising company and the corporations who are advertising their products. For example, it helps the consumer and eases their ability to make plans and to buy products that are tailored towards their needs. But it also helps the advertising company spend less money doing the advertising. For example, we brought up the youth forum example. Youth forum would only target those people on Facebook who have put in their interest category that they are interested in debate. That way they don't have to advertise to everyone and waste money. Also, this is going to increase profits for companies that are targeted towards that target products to specific individuals. Even if they argue that they're going to be missing out on other consumers, but the problem is that these companies aren't looking for those consumers. They're targeting towards these specific consumers. Those are the consumers they want. Finally, they make the argument that there might be an individual might receive an ad that they're not interested in. The problem is, even if a male isn't interested in what is being marketed to him, it's his decision what he does with that information. Also, it would work more than without target advertising. So, to sum up the round, there are two layers. The first layer is overlooked by the affirmative side. The first layer is saying that they don't actually prove the resolution because their problem lies in the data selling, but the problem is the resolution is about industry. The resolution is about the advertising industry, and there is a very clear distinction. The second layer is about net benefits. We prove not only that A, there is no privacy violation in the status quo because people implicitly agreed to use the internet and risk their privacy and risk losing their information, and second, there are net benefits that come through profit, inclusion, and utility. So I urge a con ballot.
Thank you. We'd like to ask everyone to leave the room for a bit and shake hands on your way out. And, or you'd like to